What happens when one person keeps stepping in to protect and the other never steps up to speak? Because that's the question people can't stop asking after watching what slowly unfolded between Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo. At first, no one even noticed anything was wrong. It didn't start with a fight, a tweet, or some dramatic fallout. It started with silence. And somehow, that silence grew louder than any statement ever could. It all traces back to that moment in Singapore. A fan crossed a line and Cynthia instinctively stepped in. Calm, grounded, protective. It should have been seen for what it was: care, awareness, and quick thinking. But the internet did what it always does. Clips got replayed, slowed down, exaggerated. And suddenly, Cynthia wasn't just a friend anymore. She was being framed as the protector, the strong one, the imposing one. At first, some people laughed. Then the jokes shifted. Memes started popping up that leaned into uncomfortable territory. Cynthia was portrayed as overly strong, overly masculine, almost aggressive. Meanwhile, Ariana stayed framed as delicate, soft, fragile. And that contrast didn't feel accidental, it felt familiar. Too familiar. That's when things started getting uncomfortable for a lot of people. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Not everyone stayed quiet about it. One voice in particular cut through the noise. Actress Isa Gonzalez spoke up and made it clear she wasn't here for the jokes, the memes, or the framing. She called out what she saw as misogyny and racial undertones hiding behind humor. She said the quiet part out loud, that these narratives don't exist in a vacuum. They grow when no one shuts them down. Some people called her messy. Others said she was doing too much. But a lot of fans felt relief, because finally someone was saying what felt obvious but uncomfortable to admit: that Cynthia wasn't being treated fairly, and that Ariana's silence might be letting that treatment slide. What made it hit harder was that this wasn't a one-off moment. The pattern had been there for a while. Cynthia had always been described as grounded, confident, nurturing, traits that somehow kept getting twisted into something negative. Strength became something to mock. Confidence became something to fear. And Ariana? She stayed quiet. Publicly, at least. That's why one small detail sent fans spiraling. Ariana liked a video defending Cynthia, just a like. One tap. But that single action confirmed something important. She had seen the conversation. She knew exactly what people were saying, and she still chose not to say anything. That's where the narrative shifted, because silence doesn't always mean ignorance. Sometimes it means avoidance. Around the same time, fans noticed Cynthia changing. Slowly at first. She stopped mentioning Ariana as much. Her posts became more focused on her own work, her music, her projects. Interviews started sounding different too. More talk about boundaries, about choosing peace, about learning who truly stands beside you when things get uncomfortable. Then came the quote that made everyone stop scrolling. Even protectors need protecting sometimes. No names were mentioned, none were needed. The timing said everything. People started digging, comparing timelines, looking at how often Ariana used to interact with Cynthia's post versus now. The difference was impossible to ignore. Two people who once looked inseparable now felt distant, like something had quietly shifted behind the scenes. And still, Ariana stayed silent. What made it sting even more was her history. Ariana has never been shy about calling out disrespect. She's spoken up before, loudly, clearly. But when it came to Cynthia, that energy disappeared. No public defense, no request for fans to stop. Not even a simple thank you after Cynthia stepped in to protect her. That contrast hit hard. Then something happened that felt final. Cynthia unfollowed Ariana on Instagram. No announcement, no explanation. Just one quiet click that said more than 1,000 words ever could. The internet exploded, of course. Theories everywhere. Some people blamed Ariana. Others defended her, saying she doesn't owe anyone a public statement. But even among her most loyal fans, doubts started creeping in. Because staying silent while someone you care about is getting dragged doesn't look neutral. It looks like a choice. Cynthia, on the other hand, kept moving forward. Solo appearances, calm confidence. Then came the performance that made everything feel painfully clear. A song about standing strong alone. The lyrics were raw, too specific to ignore. It felt like someone finally letting go of a role they'd been stuck playing for too long. Weeks passed, but the tension didn't fade. Every post became a clue. When Ariana shared a selfie captioned, "Healing takes time," people read into it immediately. Some thought it was an olive branch. Others felt it was another way of sidestepping accountability. Cynthia kept glowing, though. Focused, grounded, speaking openly about knowing who truly stands beside you when the spotlight fades. It didn't feel bitter, it felt resolved. And that's what made the whole situation hit differently. This wasn't a loud breakup. It wasn't a feud. It was the quiet unraveling of a friendship built on imbalance. One person always protecting, the other benefiting from silence. The fairy tale didn't end in chaos. It simply evolved into something real. And in that reality, it looks like both women are finding their own footing again, even if that means walking separate paths under the same spotlight. The question now isn't whether Ariana will ever speak. It's whether silence already said everything it needed to say. Because some friendships don't end with arguments. They end when the protector finally puts the sword down.